Can you assuage the fears of Ghanaians that this reserve will not be degraded after the execution of the project?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the President of our country is the co-chair of the United Nations Secretary General's Committee of Eminent Advocates. And so matters of environmental preservation are absolutely primordial when it comes to President Akufo-Addo. Whatever we will do to ensure that the Etiwa forest is not unnecessarily degraded, I want to assure the committee we will do that. Wherever you have an extractive industry, the balance between exploiting your natural resources and preserving the environment has always been a very delicate one. But what I do know is that the Ghana Integrated Aluminium Development Corporation has a green unit under their secretariat, which is specifically paying attention to issues of Etiwa forest. Etiwa forest and other forest reserves which may be impacted by the work of the Ghana Integrated Aluminium Development Corporation. So I can give that assurance that if I get the opportunity, it's a matter that I will have a keen interest in. I'm told, for instance, that they are attempting to do what they call a biodiversity baseline assessment, which will result in them being able to preserve some of the flora and fauna in the Atiwa forest. So I can assure you.
The Chairman, my second question. In 2018, Mr. Mafaida Dat, head of Climate Investment Fund of the World Bank, indicated that Ghana has lost half of its forests since the year 2000. He added that Ghana is losing forests at 2% rates per year and projected that if that continues, Ghana will soon join the 4 countries in the world without forests. In 2019, Global Forest Watch used updated remote sensing and satellite data from the University of Maryland and estimated that there was a 60% increase in Ghana's primary rainforest loss in 2018 compared to 2017. This is the highest in the world. What concrete measures can you put in place to check this rate of degradation of our forest cover?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I think we can tackle a matter like this through a multifaceted approach. Clearly, the enforcement of the laws relating to the preservation of the environment will be key, because Mr. Chairman, the Honourable Member talks about degradation. So we're talking about the felling of trees, the harvesting of trees, but there are laws, there are copious, comprehensive legal regime, enforcement regime in respect of how we harvest trees in our country and so on and so on. So we need to strengthen that. We need to examine what enforcement regimes we have. The issues of personnel, the issues of the protocols, the issues of monitoring and all of that. We need to do that. And also I've talked about this aggressive afforestation. I think that will also help. If we're able to also get a grip on illegal small-scale mining, that will also help with the degradation, the prevention of the degradation of the environment. Thank you.
Next question. Urbanization, industrialization, and increased population are the 3 major factors exerting enormous pressure on the use of land. Ghana use of land is not properly regulated. And if we are not careful, the upcoming generation will have no option than to blame us for not putting in place the necessary mechanisms to ensure judicious use of land because land is fixed and limited in supply. What do you think must be done to ensure proper use of land in Ghana?
Mr. Chairman, on a matter like this, I think I will respectfully defer to the experts and assure the committee that, given the opportunity, I will look forward to proper expert advice from the Lands Commission and from Parliament itself as well. And hopefully, we should be able to come up with a strategy to resolve an issue like that. Thank you.
Very well. My chairman has asked to do. Yes. Yes, this is Gary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable nominee, the resource case theory, or what is commonly referred to paradox of plenty. There's been a lot of research. I can think of Dr. Ellis Danso's book on mineral resource governance. I can think of my own research at the University of Webster. I want to limit it to how people living in the mining areas are living in abject poverty, even though they bear the brunt of the environmental hazards. What are you going to do for people living in mining communities when you are giving them help? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, quite clearly, if I get the opportunity, hopefully and God willing, I obviously should be knocking on the door of my my honorable colleague, because it will appear that she's an authority when it comes to this matter. So, madam, when I knock on your door, please open me and then assist me, so that we will be able to put all the issues together for the benefit of our country. But I can just say quickly two things. The Mineral Development Fund, Madam, Mr. Chairman, the Mineral Development Fund, the architecture of the Mineral Development Fund and the disbursement, the efficient utilization of the 20% accruals from the Minerals Income Investment Fund to the Mineral Development Fund. The proper utilization of those funds, I believe, can help communities. And I believe it's something that we have to pay particular attention to. So in addition to coming to knock on the door of the Honourable Member for Assistance, I think the effective implementation of the Mineral Development Fund will also help.
Very well. Honourable Pilot.
No more questions. Most grateful, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I want to revisit the matter related to our forest cover. And there are 4 reports here. The World Economic Forum, Ghana losing its rainforest faster than any other country in the world. This was a May 2019 report. The Rainforest Trust, another report indicating that Ghana lost over half of its rainforest in 2018. This was also released in June 2019. The World Resources Institute is the 3rd report I have here. We said that Ghana lost its rainforest in 2018, the size of Belgium, the size of the European country Belgium. To put the figure at some 3.6 million hectares of primary rainforest. Global Forest Watch is the 4th report, also decrying the rate of deforestation. So the preponderance of literature all confirming that at this rate we will have no forest cover. It's grim indeed, and it's very, very troubling. A lot of the policies that we have implemented, according to these reports, are not aggressive enough. and are not yielding the right results. What would the nominee do differently by way of a new paradigm to avert the threat that all of these reputable institutions are warning our country about?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I want to first of all say that I will be most grateful if the Honourable Member for North Tongue will furnish me with these reports, because I believe that will be useful for my own understanding of the situation. But yes, I do know that there is a lot of depletion of our forest cover, but I must also put on record very forcefully that the experts will tell you again that the depletion of forest covers happen over a certain considerable period of time. And so I cited the example of Ethiopia, where we are told that the forest cover of Ethiopia some 5, 10, 20 years ago was about 40 to 60%, only for the forest cover to deplete over a period of time. So it will not take 2 years, 3 years to deplete your forest cover. I want us to respectfully put the situation in that context, that it will take many years of actions and inactions which will result in the depletion of your forest cover. So that is number one. Number two, we all have to recognize that as society grows and there's urbanization and there's a need for livelihoods through all kinds of methods, there's always a tendency for people to engage in illegal felling of trees and illegal mining and several other things which result in the depletion of a forest cover. But what we can do straight away, I think two very important things. A lot has been done already, I've mentioned that, but two critical issues that I believe we can roll out. One is safeguarding the forest we have now. How do we safeguard the forest we have now? Which is ensuring that we look at the enforcement regime and enforce the rules and regulations forcefully. And finally, engaging in aggressive afforestation. You prevent the harvesting of the trees, you prevent the harvesting of the forest, at the same time you are planting. That is the only way we can be a sustainable situation in terms of the forest cover of our country.
A follow-up to that, Mr. Chairman, the World Economic Forum has some numbers as to how much we will need to spend to restore the environmental damage, what has been lost. From your briefings thus far, do you have any numbers as to how much is needed, monetary-wise, to restore the environmental damage? Do you have any numbers from your briefings?
Well, I don't have exact figures now, but what I've actually done, Mr. Chairman, is that normally when you are announced for a portfolio, your wish and desire and hope is that you be confirmed. And so, even whilst your appointment is still in limbo, you try to engage whatever officials you may. And so I have tasked, I've spoken to a few people to begin to put together the numbers. And as you know, the Minister of Finance, God willing, when it's approved by this House, will come to the House with estimates. And therefore, whatever will be required, and I must say that a lot will be required in terms of the funding, a lot will be required. And I'm not looking at only governmental sources. I believe that the green world out there, if we're able to package programs which are attractive enough, we can attract funding across the world to be able to support. So I don't have an exact figure now, but we have begun a reflection along the lines of how much we need and how to raise the requisite funding.
Just to indicate that the World Economic Forum is projecting some $29 billion, which is quite a staggering amount. And you'll have a lot of work and fundraising to do when nominated, God willing. But let me move to my second question, which I take from the 2020 budget and economic policy statement presented to this House on the 13th of November 2019 by the Honorable Minister responsible for Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta. We wish him a speedy recovery. At page 148 of the budget statement, he reported to this House that as part of the Operation Vanguard task force's assignment to fight galamsey, the following seizures and confiscation was effected. To quote specifically, says that the seizure of 2,779 weapons and ammunition, seizure of 4,049 other mining equipment, which includes the over 500 excavators which remain missing.
Please, 2,000.
It's 148, page 148 of the 2020 budget.
I don't have it. I just want the numbers.
2,779 weapons and ammunition, seizure of 4,049 mining equipment, then over 1,727 illegal miners arrested. That's the update the Honorable Minister provided to this House. From your briefings, are you able to tell us the state of these seizures? Particularly, as you know, there's been a raging national debate as to the whereabouts of these mining equipment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, first of all, I'd like to explain that the seizure of equipment is dramatically different from confiscation of the equipment. The law makes a distinction. The Minerals and Mining, Mineral Operations, Tracking of Earth-Moving and Mining Equipment Regulations 2020, LI 2404, and the Minerals and Mining Amendment Act 2019, Act 995, makes a clear distinction between seizure and confiscation. Seizure is when you seize the equipment. It gets confiscated when you go through a judicial process and get the equipment confiscated. So yes, the number quoted by the honorable member, he uses the word seizure, and so when they are seized, there are multiple reasons why they may be returned to their original owners when they come to prove that perhaps they were no use for illegal mining or that it didn't belong to this person or that person. So that cannot be the only basis upon which we can make a definitive conclusion that these are the number of equipment which were ultimately confiscated and which therefore will have to be accounted for as we speak now. Number two, Mr. Chairman, I have had a briefing from the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, and I want to put on record, based on the briefings they've given me and the documentation they've given me, is that there were no 500 excavators missing. I mean, they've been very emphatic on that. They've been very emphatic on that on their briefings to me, that there were no 500 excavators missing. They are told that it's a media man who put it out there, and that became the, if you want, the number that was put out there and became this huge controversy. No, they've given me some figures. I mean, according to their report that I have cited, they confiscated 209 excavators, and they are able to account, as we speak, 161 of those excavators. The number of excavators released out of the 209 has all of them spelled out here. Those that were given to NADMO, those were given to KMA, those which were given to AMA, those which court ordered them to return to their original owners. All of them are spelled out here. So this is the answer that I'll give. And I'll conclude by saying that Parliament has been very gracious, and I welcome the intervention of Parliament, where these two pieces of legislation I've just cited seems to have settled the question of equipment, which, and I don't use the word excavators. Equipments are equipment. Equipment which are used for illegal small-scale mining, and Parliament is giving the instructions clearly as to how such equipment ought to be handled. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, by way of follow-up, with respect, the quotation from the budget, I was specific. You've only accounted for 209 excavators, but page 148 talks about seizures of 2,779 weapons, specific number, 2,779 weapons and ammunitions, and seizure of 4,045 other mining equipment, not just 209, 4,045 mining equipment. 4,045. That is the record of this House. So,
Honorable, what you accounted for, were there equipment or excavators? What you just recounted, that orders, which one were that? The equipment or excavators?
Mr. Chairman, I brought in the bit about excavators because he mentioned that 500 excavators were missing. So I sought to clarify that. But he is talking about equipment, and equipment are not necessarily excavators. I mean, equipment could be anything. There could be champagne, there could be boats, there could be wheelbarrows, there could be cutlasses, there could be all kinds of things. But the most important point that I sought to make, which I want to repeat, is that there is a world of difference between seizures and confiscation. So you could seize a lot, and yet ultimately you don't confiscate all of them. To be able to confiscate, you have to go to court.
yes. So, Mr. Chairman, we want a report on the status. This is your own budget, government's budget statement, report to this House.
Darmin?
Talking about seizures. The report is not ambiguous at all about seizure or confiscation. It gives us specific numbers. We have seized 2,779 weapons and ammunitions. We have seized 4,045 other mining equipment. I'm asking a simple question. Where are all these items seized? What is the status from the briefings you have received so far? If you don't have the information, you can let us have it later when you further consult.
Mr. Chairman, my good friend, the Honorable Okudito Abdulai, should vote for me. And if you vote for me and I get the opportunity, I'll be more than gracious. I'll be a servant of this House. So I'll be more than gracious to appear and give him an update. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I thought that my good friend will have provided the report before we take the vote, so that it could have informed how we vote. But I'm willing to move on. My third and final question will relate to a few reputational matters that I think I should give you the opportunity to respond to. Just two of them. The first one is the Ghana Web report dated Thursday, 5th December 2019, which reports you says Abu Jinapor openly assaults former Agric minister. That is the Ghana Web report of 5th December 2019. It appears that the report suggests that you engaged in some fistcuff at the Damba Festival in Bupe, the central Gonja district of the Savannah region, following what the report claims to be disrespect to the former president, John Dramani Mahama, when you refused to acknowledge his presence by not standing up. Alaji Limuna Muniru is said to have been verbally assaulted by you. That's what the report claims. I can let you have it so that you respond to that. The second matter is a Ghana Integrity Initiative report dated August 28, 2017. Under the heading, Kennedy Ajapon's Flagstaff House bribery allegation damning and must be investigated. This was a statement put out by the Ghana Integrity Initiative signed by the Executive Director of GII, Linda Ofori Kwafu, when the Honorable Kennedy Ajapon, a senior member of this House, sought to suggest that presidential staffers and people around the president were demanding money from business people. He put a figure as much as $20,000 to see when investors and other people wanted to see the president or sought an appointment with the president. A demand was made by GII for investigations. My checks and researching before this hearing did not lead me to any conclusive investigation on this matter and the demand made by the respected Ghana Integrity Initiative. Do you want to respond to these two matters to at least set the record straight?
Honorable Sujet, I want to be clear. The second one, has his name been specifically mentioned? I want to be specific if it's about him or just a general statement.
It's about his position, office holders. It refers to the deputy chiefs of staff, presidential staffers, around workers around the president.
Well,
that's what the Honorable Kennedy Ajapon. I'm sure he may have heard the Honorable Kennedy Ajapon make that allegation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, let me very respectfully submit that reports from news portals always have to be looked at carefully. Chairman, I recall a report on one news portal which said I was engaging some row with somebody in my constituency, and a picture came out, only for it to turn out that the picture was actually shot from Adabraka, and whilst I was in Fufusonya Warpe, in the enclaves of Achibonyo and other places. So reports by news portals, Mr. Chairman, with respect, I want to, with the greatest of respect, be looked at and looked at carefully. That is number one. Number two, Mr. Chairman, the allegation that I engaged in fisticuffs with Alhaji Muniru Limuna, the former Minister for Agriculture, and disrespected former President Mahama. My first response is that the Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa, the Honorable member from North Town, is a very good friend of mine. We are extremely close. We are literally like family. And I'm sure he will attest to the fact that I will not engage in an argument, let alone fisticuffs. Mr. Chairman, in all humility and modesty, anybody who has dealt with me, even casually, and I repeat, in all humility and modesty, will attest to the fact that I'm a gentleman. I'm a proper gentleman. I don't even engage in arguments, let alone fisticuffs. The Honorable Alhaji Limuna Munira is my uncle, my direct uncle. And in Northern Customs, it will be completely scandalous. It will be a sacrilege for me to even talk back at him. And I met him 2 weeks ago at a funeral, and we had very cordial engagement. I have absolutely nothing against Alhaji Muniru Limuna. He's my uncle, and we get on very well. Former President Mahama, and me disrespecting him. Again, let me say, Mr. Chairman, that this allegation and this claim was an allegation which was waged extensively and vigorously in the run-up to the 2020 campaign in my constituency. It was run by my opponents. We all do know the influence that President Mahama wields in the Savannah region. That is not in doubt. That is his home region. So it's always politically expedient for one to say, this person is against President Mahama, or this person has insulted President Mahama, and it's always for political gains. This is a hearing of, this is a public hearing, so there are a lot of things I can't say on this platform.
Chairman, let me come, keep it there. Chairman, let me come in. On that fateful day that the Honorable Abdulai is talking about, I just want to measure your conduct. If Abu Jinapor, you are seated at a ceremony of culture of Damba, and President John Dramani Mahama, as he then was, walks in, did you rise as a sign of respect to him as former President of the Republic on that occasion?
I have risen on sight of President Mahama anytime I've seen him. I will rise on his side today. I will rise on his side tomorrow, if for nothing at all, for the office he occupied.
And you did that that particular day?
I always do, and I did that.
And you are sure that that day didn't take to a moment where somebody threatened slapping the other that day?
Never. And President Mahama himself will attest to that. He knows I respect him a lot. He will never deny that.
So there were no verbal exchanges?
Never.
Of you saying that you had organized this particular Damba festival and therefore you were running the show?
Mr. Chairman Leader, people say all kinds of things, trust me, with the greatest of respect. I crave your indulgence that people say all kinds of things. It's unfortunate I have to be answering some of these things. People say all kinds of things.
Yeah, I know Limuna is your uncle. So, yeah, Chairman, I just wanted clarity on this because in several instances, the talk has been that when the side, if I were anywhere and I saw President Kufuor or late President Rawlings, as a mark of respect to their person and to the authority of the high office of President, I owe them a rise to honor them. But the statement at the time was that when President Mahama came in and was greeting, you refused. That's why I just want you to clarify it. It's an opportunity. You are speaking to the people of Damongo, the Boer, even people in Tamale. So clarify it, that when you saw President Mahama, you didn't demonstrate that respect. Is that true?
I did give him that respect. And in fact, it's sad. In our custom, when I'm with him in private, I don't even stand. I squat to greet him. And he knows that. President Mahama,
you know that may be a misinterpretation of somebody who doesn't know that the custom is to squat. You assume that when you squatted, it means...
But on this occasion, I rose. On this occasion, I went to meet him there, and when he got up to speak, I rose. And the honorable minority that knows I'm a very respectful young man. He can attest to that.
Let's move on. Yes, which one was the second one?
What?
The allegation that some...
Yes, that I'll just give a straightforward answer. President Akufo-Addo's presidency and government is not a transactional presidency. Akufo-Addo is a man of enormous integrity, absolutely incorruptible, and he insists on that for all his appointees and aides. Particularly at the presidency, the president will not superintend or oversee any such transaction. And none of that can happen to the best of my ability, to the best of my knowledge, and the president will not permit it, because the president is there doing the work of Ghana. He doesn't transact, and he's a man of integrity.
Is the president working with angels?
He is not, but I'm saying that if that came to his attention, he will not permit it. And the system that we supervised at the presidency at the time I was there, that was obviously not possible.
Any reason why you didn't respond to the Honorable Kennedy Ajapa? Why didn't you respond to the allegations? Very much, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations to the Honorable nominee. Salt, as a mineral resource in the country, seems not to be given a lot of attention. However, figures on our salt deposit in the country shows that if we are able to concentrate our efforts in mining salt, in addition to our mineral resources, we will generate substantial amount of money from that sector. I've heard you this morning talk about your vision of establishing a salt development authority if you are given the nod. A number of factors have been stated as militating against the development of salt in the country. One is the intensive capital requirement for startups to be able to go into the salt industry. There is also lack of state-of-the-art salt harvesters for salt operators in Ghana. And then also there is communal tussle over coastal ownership, which sometimes results in legal encumbrances for potential investors in the salt industry. In Ghana, we have about 500-kilometer coastline, and if we are able to develop the salt sector very well, we can create jobs and wealth for this country for those who reside in the 500-kilometer coastline from Keita to Azim. Beyond the Salt Development Authority, are you going to lead a salt policy which will help address some of these issues that have been raised?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, if I get the nod of this House, the decision whether or not to establish a salt development authority will not rest with me. I will not have the final say. I will have to go to Cabinet, to urge on the Cabinet for the establishment of such an authority to develop the full value chain of salt in Ghana. In fact, it has to come to Parliament. So this is just a proposal I've made. But the necessity to develop that value chain in Ghana, I believe, is extremely important. And in developing that value chain, I've talked about the need for us to have a salt terminal here in Ghana, which is what will make us competitive, and build refineries as well, and also add value. Thank you.
The lack of supervision has been one of the challenges we face in this country when it comes to exploitation of our natural resources. At the vetting of the Minister nominee for Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, the Honorable Dr. Kokofriye proposed that we should have a system where we separate reclamation of the land and restoration of the land from those who go to, in quote, destroy the land. What is your view on such an arrangement where in this country mining companies will not be required to do the reclamation efforts themselves, but we should have either the MMDCs or different entity who go after they have done their mining to restore the land and possibly the waters as well?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I think it's a very useful proposal, and I think it's one worth examination. The issues of reclamation, the issue of reclamation and revegetation as they relate to large-scale mining and large-scale mining companies doesn't seem to be much of a problem. I think the real problem has to do with small-scale mining, because the law relating to small-scale mining simply says when you excavate, within 30 days, you must fill the pit and you must revegetate. So that is not tight enough. So I believe that between myself and the Minister for Environment, we should be able to come together to find the mechanism, strategy, or policy which will ensure that reclaiming degraded lands becomes a permanent feature in our country. Thank you. Yes, Gisela.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable nominee, I'm particularly impressed with your science background, physics. But it seems that the law seems to have overrun the physics. So I'm going to appeal to you to bring the physics and the science back to your portfolio. Because between mines, lands, and forestry, I think that you know that the science is very important. You are Generation Y, a millennial, young, ambitious, confident. The onus lies on you to show leadership and make a difference in this sector. The SDGs end, the target date is 2030. We are in 2021, 9 years to go. If you're not reshuffled, you have 4 years in this portfolio. So that is a good time to grab it and run with it. That is friendly advice to give you. The question, my question is, what are you going to do? What will be your policy direction on the sustainable extraction of aggregates for the infrastructure sector? Sand winning, quarrying, any other material that are mainly used for in the infrastructure sector, and how it affects the communities, local communities that are neighbors in that vicinity. What should be you're going to give that much attention, or is just going to be the quarries are going to bulldoze their way and have their own, run their own operations? And what about sand winning? Because it's a very important aspect in communities whereby people just come with excavators, no control.
He has heard the question.
Thank you.
What will be your policy direction on extraction for construction?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, let me first of all thank my sister, the honorable member, for her kind words, and to say that collaboratively and with her support and other people, I believe we will work in the interest of this country and for the good of the Ghanaian people. Mr. Chairman, my assessment of the whole sector of lands and natural resources, I think the biggest issue in that ministry is regulation. I think the biggest issue is regulation in all aspects of it, whether it's land, whether it's forestry, whether it's the mineral sector, whether it's sand winning, as she's rightly indicated, whether it's quarrying, whether it's salt, regulation. Because it's a ministry where a lot of money is involved. And when you are talking about gold and all these other businesses and extractive industry, there's a lot of money that goes through. So my simple answer to the question, and that answer goes to a lot of the issues and aspects of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. I find my job, if I get the approval of this committee, well cut out for me, which is what will be the leadership required and the framework to regulate the whole land and natural resources for the benefit of the Ghanaian people.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we expect more action and less talk.
Well, certainly, madam, certainly.
Oh, for sand winning, and what is the regulation?
Okay. Mr. Chairman, first of all, you cannot win sand without license. You cannot. I mean, you can't win sand. First of all, you need a license. Second of all, you need to win the sand within a regulated framework. Yeah, so it's regulation.
So all you need to do is to identify an area and put up a notice on the district assembly hall. That's all.
Yes.
And even that, nobody checks to find out whether indeed the area you have demarcated is the area you're winning the sand.
That is correct.
So the regulation itself, in my view, isn't sufficient, and I'll ask you to pay attention to that one.
Okay.
Very well. It's done. Chairman, you have had so many. when you acted as a leader, you took advantage to more to push out. Yes,
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Honorable nominee, once more, congratulations to you. I have just two questions. The first one has to do with land guards. There was this article titled Land Guards, State Subordination and Human Rights in Ghana, and it's been published by the International Journal on Human Rights. And this was the conclusion they made. They said the weak law enforcement capabilities of the state and rampant corruption in the land management institutions facilitate conflicts in land markets and encourage people to resort to individual security mechanisms. And this has been the reason why we have land guards around. to the extent that when you come to my constituency, now Medina constituency, you have even public lands being encroached with land guards, and sometimes police officers also pose as guards for private people. What are you going to do to stop the menace of land guards in Ghana?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the straight answer to the issue of land guards, and again I should repeat that I will need the approval and get into the ministry to have a fuller understanding of the situation and be able to come up with a more comprehensive strategy in dealing with the issue of land guards. But having said that, there is a direct correlation between an efficient or otherwise administration of land and the issue of land guards in Ghana. There is a direct correlation. If land title is indefeasible and there is no fraud in land administration, and registration of interest and title in land is smooth and effective, automatically it has a tendency of reducing the incidences of the situation you've just mentioned. Enforcement is also going to be important. Having put together your land administration correctly, or even before that, the enforcement mechanism will also be extremely important, and the security aspect of it in rooting out the people involved in this situation. But finally, Mr. Chairman, I think Parliament, in the enactment of Act 1036 and the express criminalization of land guard situation in our country also will help, because Section 12 of Act 136, Section 12 of Act 136 expressly outlaws the phenomenon of land guards. So that will also help with prosecutions, convictions, and in the process, I believe that it will help a lot. So this will be my answer to that, Mr. Chairman.
Right, and a quick follow-up to that. So, for example, in Pantai Hospital, where you have government lands being encroached upon by private individuals, and all attempts to salvage the land for future development of such public facility or public good is becoming problematic. What would you do to protect such government or public lands for future use?
The public lands of Ghana, constituting about 20% of the lands of our country, are the properties of the Ghanaian people. The lands of this country, public lands, are vested in the president for and on behalf of the people of Ghana. So the requirement to protect public lands, in my view, is sacred. And Mr. Chairman, I know that a lot of efforts has been put in place already. I've been briefed that some public lands have been recovered as we speak. Even since my announcement, Mr. Chairman, I've had to be involved in warding off encroachers on public lands. But I mean, the collaboration between the Ministry of National Security, the Ministry of Interior, the Ministry of Local Government, and my ministry in forming a multi-sectorial or multi-ministerial committee or arrangement to ensure that the public lands of this country are protected will be extremely important.
So my second question has to do with land administration again. From my research, I realized that about 67% of the Land Commission's revenue goes to the government of Ghana. And so the Commission is unable to generate sufficient funds, particularly when it again has to rely on the government. Are you willing to make the Lands Commission an autonomous body for proper management of land-related matters in Ghana?
Well, the functions of the Lands Commission, by the dictates of our national constitution, are largely autonomous. The Constitution says so. with the exception of, I think, Article 258 or so of the Constitution, which empowers the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources to give policy directions to the Lands Commission with the approval of the President. Largely, the operations and functions of the Lands Commission are independent. But the financial independence of the Lands Commission will certainly, like any other agency of the state, be subject to the directions of the Ministry of Finance. I mean, it is so for every agency in Ghana, and it is so because Parliament has enacted laws to that effect. But I will conclude by saying that if the Lands Commission gets more efficient, if we're able to work to get to the point where the Lands Commission is more efficient, the delivery of their services are more efficient, people have confidence in the Lands Commission, they will generate a lot more funds, and therefore the little that they are supposed to retain will actually be enough. So we need to also look within the Lands Commission itself.
Yes, Honorable Deputy Leader.
Chairman, thank you so much. Honorable Nominee, you are aware of the Minerals Income and Investment Fund Act. Now, as a sector minister, run us through what would you put in place to, one, ensure that there's more Ghanaian ownership of mining companies, and two, that we get value for our gold. In view of the law we've put in place, how do you intend to facilitate that? That's my question one for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the matter relating to Ghanaian participation in the mining industry are in twofold. There is the local content bit, which large-scale mining companies as well as small-scale mining companies are required to respect the provisions of LI 2431, which is the local content regime for the mining industry in Ghana. So that is one bit. So a wholly foreign-owned large-scale mining company will still be required to adhere to the tenets of LI 2431. So I've already answered that, which is that we should effectively and ruthlessly enforce the provisions of LI 2431. But there is the second one, which is indigenous Ghanaians or entities or companies or enterprises having a controlling stake in large-scale mining companies. That is a big issue. Today, we have about 16 large-scale mining companies in Ghana. 12 of them are operating. None of those mining companies has a Ghanaian controlling stake. So it means that all the mining in Ghana, I don't want to name mining companies, but I'm saying that all the mining that takes place in Ghana in a large-scale sector, not a single company is owned by Ghanaian entities. None. Now, yes, as a government, I think we should create a conducive environment to attract investments from abroad. We need to attract foreign and direct investment. No two ways about that. I will be more than prepared to do that and work with the Ghana Chamber of Mines closely to ensure that we promote foreign investment. But there is the need for us to put in place policies to ensure that there is indigenous Ghanaian participation in the mining sector. I've been told that in Indonesia.
But you know that the objective, if you look at the enactment carefully, the objective of that law is to ensure that we get more value for our gold. I need you to emphasize on the steps to ensure the realization of this objective, because it's very important. Many are concerned. How do we actualize our mineral resources? How do we give it value for the purpose of development?
Yeah. So the Minerals Income Investment Fund, I believe, becomes one of the major platforms upon which we can have Ghanaian participation in large-scale mining in Ghana, because one of the functions or mandates of the Minerals Income Investment Fund is to invest in mining operations in Ghana. So yes, and for instance, the special purpose vehicle that they've actually attempted to create, Ajapa, and all of those are some of the reasons or the objectives for which that framework or that arrangement was put in place.
So are you saying that the Ajapa, for instance, that you've just mentioned, the agreement is in line with that agreement that came to this August House in 2020? Are you saying that it's in line with the object of the fund?
Chairman, what I'm very much agreeing with the honorable leader that the conceptual underpinnings of Ajapa, the creation of that special purpose vehicle, is very much in line with Section 4.1 of the Minerals Income Investment Fund Act 2018, Act 978, which talks about the functions of the fund, which is to leverage incomes or whatever that comes out of our gold mining for purposes of supporting mining operations in Ghana, and which ultimately can cure this lacuna or can fill this lacuna of indigenous Ghanaian companies and enterprises not participating in large-scale mining in Ghana. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, but the Ajapa is not owned by that entity. Per the report we had, it is owned by some individuals who were using the platform.
No.
Is that the
Ajapa is owned 100% by MIF. Ajapa is owned 100% by MIF, by the Minerals Income Investment Fund, which is a creature of the act of this parliament. And the Minerals Income Investment Fund is a creature of statute. And therefore, by extension, Ajapa is owned 100% by the good people of this country.
Mr. Chair, I want to have him on record. So, your contention is that, in line with the realization of the objects of this enactment, the Ajapa agreement in itself was not a private sector owned. It was a creation of this very enactment, and that it was a special purpose vehicle through which the objective of the fund was to be realized, and that entity itself, by being created, is 100% owned by the state and not any private sector participant.
Mr. Chairman, first of all, it will be totally illegal and totally contrary to the teachings of the Minerals Income Investment Fund Act 2018, Act 978, particularly Section 4.1 of the Act, if an individual owned even a share of Ajapa. And it is therefore my contention and submission that Ajapa, as currently constituted as a special purpose vehicle, was constituted by the Minerals Income Investment Fund, whereupon the Minerals Income Investment Fund is 100% shareholder of Ajapa, which therefore means that Ajapa, the Minerals Income Investment Fund, being a creature or a creature of the act of this parliament, is owned by 100% by the Ghanaian people, by the good people of Ghana. They own the shares of Ajapa 100%, not an individual.
So when they get onto the stocks, eventually, I mean, at what point will there be private sector participation? And is there any intention to offload majority of estates to the other investors? Do you have any briefing on that?
Mr. Chairman, the briefing is right here in Section 4.1, which states, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, and I quote, that the functions of Ajapa are spelled out, and I quote, for the purposes of, I'm very sorry, Mr. Chairman, the functions of the Minerals Income Investment Fund states, and I quote, Section 4.1, for the purposes of achieving the objects of the fund shall manage, dealing, and invest minerals income accruing to the Republic received by the fund, hold and manage minerals equity interests of the Republic, and exercise all rights related to the minerals equity interest. Seek the best possible financial returns on investments, having regard to internationally recognized best practices.
That's okay. So you have the law with you.
I do.
Can you? Oh, sorry, Mr. Chair.
No, now let him finish the answer, and if I permit you, you continue. Yes.
So, Mr. Chairman, the point I'm making is that the establishment of the special purpose vehicle Ajapa, pursuant to the Act of Parliament, is very much in accord with the instructions of Parliament itself, that MIF should leverage, monetize, add value, invest royalties accruing from gold, royalties accruing from our minerals, which they have done by the establishment of the special purpose vehicle Ajapa. And the floating of the shares of Ajapa is actually in accord with the provisions of Act 978, particularly Section 4.1 of the Minerals Income Investment Act. It's very much in accord with it, respectfully.
Yes, Honorable Nominee, please. You seem to have the law with you.
I do, please.
Can you take us through the membership of the board of MIF? Can you?
I have it here. Mr. Chairman, with your permission, the membership of the board is found in Section 5.1 of Act 978. And with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I quote, the governing body of the fund is a board consisting of A chairperson, B, the chief executive officer of the fund, C, a representative each from the following ministries, not below the rank of director, I, Ministry of Finance, NII, Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, B, three other persons nominated by the minister, E, the Commissioner for Domestic Tax Revenue Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, and F, a Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, nominated by the Governor of the Bank of Ghana. 2, at least 3 of the members
Honorable, it's good that you identify where it is in the law.
Yes.
We know where to find it, so for our purposes, that should be sufficient.
Yes, please. I'm grateful, Chair.
Yes, Honorable.
Chairman, I'll take the minister. I'll come back to Ajapa because many of your assertions, as you are led by the deputy leader, is not in sync with what was brought to Parliament, because you insist that it was 100% holding. I do know that the SPV was seeking to give out at least some shares, 51 to 49, but I've asked for a parliamentary Hansard. So, Chairman, I'll end with Ajapa with him. But now, when the Honorable Abdulai referred you to seize equipments or excavators, you were seeking to contradict your own Minister for Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, and not him. But I refer you to your handing over notes. Important changes. And Chairman, I do have a copy here. Ministry of Lands and Forestry, transitional handing over notes for the period 2017-2020. And now you gave 209. In the handing over notes, if you come with me, where you have the heading, important changes, it reads, Cabinet directed the ministry to take direct responsibility to streamline and manage small-scale mining activities. So it means an obligation for you tomorrow if you do become minister. The ministry took inventory of various equipment that were seized by the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, IMCIM, and gallant stock. And Chairman, my emphasis, and resulted in the sighting of 159 excavators. So which statistics should we stand by? That of Ken Ofori-Atta in a budget, yours has given us 209, and 159 as captured in your handing over notes. Which one should we stand with? Minister nominee.
159 of excavators.
159, that's what is in the handing over notes.
Okay. Handing over notes of the ministry, I suspect. Ministry of Land.
Chairman is here. 159. Excavators is even in bold with the 159. So these are not my words. I just want to know which numbers you want us to stand with. Your number 209, handing over notes 159, Ken Oforiata 2000. No, that's weapons. Weapons is 2,779. Mining equipment is 4,000. What should we stand with?
Mr. Chairman, I will very respectfully crave the indulgence of the committee and particularly the Honorable Minority Leader to hopefully, if I get a nod, to possibly come and give a full account or statement on matters relating to...
That's appreciated. So you come and brief us on state of equipment and to respond to whether some have been missing or not, and to report further to this House. Were there any mineral seized, like gold? When you go, be interested in it. We only hear weapons, we hear excavators, but we know that some minerals itself were seized.
I wouldn't know at this stage.
So when you go and be interested in it, may I refer you again to your handing over notes? You've responded to it, but just to give me a policy blueprint. The challenges of your sector, illegal mining, Galamsey, President is committed to it. He has faith and confidence in you. You cannot fail him. Persistent activities of land gas, as the Honorable Sosu, a member for Medina, mentioned, particularly in the Greater Accra region. Illegal harvesting of timber, especially in forest reserve. What policy blueprint should we expect you to walk the country through as Minister for Lands and Natural Resources? Thank you, Chair.
Land guard and timber. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, on the issue of land guard, I've attempted an answer, which is that the whole effort of perfecting land administration in Ghana, in and by itself, will have some correlation on the issue of land guards. Because essentially, let's face it, Mr. Chairman, the land, I don't justify it, I don't think that it should be countenanced, but it's a reality with us, and it's a reality with us partly because of the difficulties with land administration, multiple titles, multiple sales, fraudulent sales, and so on and so forth. And then people then take the law into their own hands and try to protect their interest in land. And all of us know that land is has a big attachment, and people like to protect their land. So the more we reform land administration in Ghana and make it efficient, the more I believe the incidences of land guard will come down. And also the intervention of Parliament in criminalizing this kind of phenomenon will also help. And finally, enforcement. Timber. Mr. Chairman, there is the Timber Development Division under the Forestry Commission, which both are under the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. We need to strengthen that division.
Chairman, may I now take the nominee, just specific, mention 2 steps you intend to take as minister to increase the forest cover of the country. What will you do? Just 2, even if you identify with 1, what will you do to increase the forest cover of the country? Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Chairman, first, I personally am very passionate about this Ethiopian example. I'm extremely passionate about it. The report is that the president of Ethiopia led a program, a crusade of planting some 350 trees in a day. And I have actually added a few reflections on how we can do it here in Ghana. The thing about getting...
How many trees will you help us to plant?
I think we should be able to plant 100 million a year.
When do you intend to launch this? When do you intend to launch this?
June 5th is the World Environment Day. But let me put a caveat. let me put a caveat, which is that these are my ideas, these are my reflections, they are subject to cabinet approval. In some cases, they'll be subject to parliamentary approval. So I may think this is a brilliant idea, I may go to cabinet and it will be shut down. So the back will not stop with me. But I think it's a noble idea. I think it will help if we're able to.
Okay, Chairman, let him go and canvass. If you are successful, do it. But I don't see any controversy over wanting to learn from Ethiopia in planting trees and increasing our forest cover. Now, specific. What will you do to reduce the turnaround time in land title registration? What will you do specific? Land title registration. You've responded to it. I want specific.
Yeah, but we have to digitize the records of Lands Commission. Mr. Chairman, the Honorable Minority Leader knows that you cannot make any headway if people can, for instance, go into the Lands Commission and then you have a land transaction, you go there, you can't find a file, and it becomes an issue. Or there's an issue of interest in land, and what type of interest is it? We are asking questions as to where to find the interest in the land, where to find the registration. You cannot find it. So for me, the program to digitize the records of the Lands Commission is totally, it's just non-negotiable. We cannot make any headway if we don't digitize the records of the Land Commission.
All right, Chairman.
That would be the number one.
I want to find out from the nominee. Are you aware of the Youth in Afforestation program, which employs about 300,000 persons?
I'm very aware of it.
Are you aware that they've not been paid, some of it, and for some months? Has that been brought to your attention in your briefing?
That has been brought to my attention. I'm very concerned about it.
How many months is outstanding that they have not been paid for having worked for government, Youth in Afforestation? And when will you pay them?
I think from the briefing I got sometime last year in November to date, that they haven't been paid. But I spoke to the Ministry of Finance, and the indication I got was that I think the arrangements have already been put in place for, I think, a month or two to be paid. So it's a matter that I'm very concerned about, and if I get opportunity, it's a matter.
Chairman, I should be concluding there. At your forest, you've endeavored to respond to aid, but it's a globally significant biodiversity area, and you have to match a delicate balance between the forest reserve, conserving it, particularly with headwaters for Densu, Birim, Ayensu, and against exploitation of mineral resources. Where will you stand between the two, conservation, biodiversity, and then exploiting minerals for the good of the country? Where will you be as minister?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the Honorable Minority Leader is more than aware than I am, actually. He probably has more experience in this area than I have. Mr. Chairman, anywhere in the world where you have extractive industry, that conflict and that complex situation arises wherever you have extractive industry. For the environmentalist, nothing should be dug out. The forest or the ecosystem should be left as it is. For the people who are looking at the economy, we should exploit our mineral resources for the growth of the country. Where I will stand is an intelligent, sustainable, skillful balance, which will ensure that, yes, we are able to exploit our natural resources for the good of the country, but at the same time, we do not unnecessarily jeopardize the environment. And as I said, as I indicated earlier, the chief executive of the Ghana Integrated Aluminium Development Corporation, Mr. Paul Ansa, is very, very passionate about the environmental issues relating to Etiwa. And he's actually indicated to me that he set up a whole green unit under the Ghana Integrated Aluminium Development Corporation, where they are going to ensure that fauna and flora are as much as reasonably possible and practically possible are preserved.
Chairman, as I said, the nominee's father, the Bupeura, is my uncle, He knows that I do relate very well with him. He certainly should be proud as your growth and development. But I entirely, in concluding, disagree with you when you are responding to the deputy leader, and you must check your brief properly on Ajapa. If you recall, I'm holding the Hansard of 14th August 2020, when the matter came before Parliament, and there was a relationship agreement, and what you refer to as 100% is not the case, because in the relationship agreement, if you want, I'm just reading from Chairman Asibe when he submitted this to the House, and he even said that Ajapa, if the fund in aggregate together with any associate holds at least 10% of the voting rights attaching to shares in Ajapa and one additional member on acquiring at least 30%. So I'm just saying that you may have your brief, but your brief may not be as accurate as what was presented to us. Also note further that in monetizing those gold resources, monetization against the 1 billion, the Mineral Development Fund will necessarily have suffered, because the commitment was to use those mineral royalties to service this particular debt. I don't intend to engage with you, but compare your notes against what is formally official before the House. Chairman, I wish the nominee well. I thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just make a quick comment on that. The point I made, and I want to emphasize, is that ab initio, when Ajapa is established, the shares of Ajapa will be held 100% by the Minerals Income Investment Fund. Of course, it's a fact that Ajapa as a special purpose vehicle, or if you want, for want of better expression, as a subsidiary of the Minerals Income Investment Fund, will float part of its shares on the stock exchange for purposes of raising capital for infrastructure development. That absolutely is not in doubt. So when that is done, the Minerals Income Investment Fund will no longer hold 100% of the shares, but at the level of the conceptual formation of that special purpose vehicle, the Minerals Income Investment Fund will still have 100% of Ajapa. It's only when it's been floated on the stock exchange that Ajapa will lose some shares, and which will therefore mean that MEF will no longer have 100% and the Ghanaian people will no longer have 100%. But it's for valuable consideration, and that is the whole purpose of Section 4 of Act 978. And finally, Mr. Chairman, the 20% royalties that are to be paid to the Mineral Development Fund, that is non-negotiable. That will not be compromised in any way, both at the conceptual level of Ajapa or through the floating of the shares. The Minerals Development Fund's 20%, that one is sacrosanct. That will not be tampered with.
Chairman, as I said, I don't want to engage in debate with him to speak to official record. That's why I requested for the Hansard. And for the record, yes, the interest in the Mineral Income Development Fund is 100% wholly government owned. But the Ajapa, as was registered to conduct those transactions abroad, was not to hold 100%.
Ultimately.
Was not. Ultimately. That's not it. No. If you are talking about just Mineral Income Investment Fund, and that was part of our objection here, that you are taking our money and you are now going to, well, part of what Ajapa was to do, the government was now even to become as if we're contributing. So read the act right. That one I disagree with you entirely. On IMF, we are in tandem with each other in our thinking, but on the shareholding as to the SPV, your contemplation is not the same thing as what was submitted to Parliament. I thank you, Chair.
We'll find a way of continuing the debate. From the two of you comes to the same thing.
Find a way of continuing the debate.
Thank you. Can you switch off your mic? Yes. Thank you for attending upon the House. I'll ignore Honorable Ahi. Thank you for attending upon the House to answer questions. We will hear from us later. You are discharged.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. You have to help me.
Okay, colleagues, we will move to the next nominee. Honorable colleagues, kindly take your seats. The nominee is in. Young Men Caucus, kindly take your seat.
So, your mic is on.
Kindly administer the oath, please.